There is a specific tension that happens in a person when they hear a command. It's not just in the mind, you can feel it in the body. A slight stiffening of the spine, a quiet closing of the heart, a flash of heat behind the eyes. It's a visceral reaction, a deep, almost primal reflex that says, no. It's a silent, internal recoil that happens in the space between a request and a response. For most people, a simple instruction is just that, an instruction, a piece of data to be processed and acted upon. But for others, it feels like a cage, a reduction, a door slamming shut on their own will. If you've ever felt that surge of resistance from a simple, reasonable request, if you've been called defiant, difficult, or stubborn your entire life, you know this isn't a choice, it's a wiring. It's the core architecture of your personality sending a fundamental message. My autonomy is non-negotiable. It's easy for the outside world to label this as rebellion, as a petulant refusal to cooperate. But the psychology behind it is so much deeper, so much more human. This isn't about disobedience, it's about autonomy. It's about the very essence of what makes an individual feel whole. Psychologists have a term for this, reactance. It's a motivational state that gets activated when we perceive our freedom to choose is being threatened or eliminated. When someone tells us what to do, a part of our brain, the part that guards our sense of self, sounds a biological alarm. Your agency is under attack. And for people high in this trait, that alarm isn't a quiet chirp, it's a deafening siren. It's not that they inherently hate the task itself. In fact, they could have been moments away from doing that exact thing willingly, even enthusiastically. But the moment it transforms from a potential internal choice into an external command, the entire psychological context shifts. The action is no longer theirs. It's been co-opted. Its meaning has changed. And to comply in that moment would feel like a quiet betrayal of the self. You can see this in a toddler who is playing quietly, completely absorbed in their own world, only to dig their heels in the moment a parent says, "Okay, time to go play." That child isn't being irrational or contrary. They are, in their nascent way, protecting a fundamental human need, the need to feel that their actions originate from within. This instinct doesn't disappear with age, it just becomes more sophisticated, more nuanced, and for some, more central to their identity. People who hate being told what to do are often fiercely independent thinkers. Their sense of self is deeply, inextricably tied to their ability to self-direct. An order, no matter how small or logically sound, doesn't just ask for action, it implies a hierarchy. It says, my will is superior to yours, and your role is to follow. And for a soul that values its own internal sovereignty above all else, that implication is a kind of poison. It doesn't just request a behavior, it challenges a core identity. This is why they often excel as entrepreneurs, artists, freelancers, inventors, any role where they are the primary architect of their own time, choices, and outcomes. In these spaces, they are unstoppable, fueled by an internal engine of incredible power. But place them in a rigid, top-down command and control structure, and it feels like a slow psychological suffocation. It's not that they can't follow rules or understand structure. They just need to believe in the why behind the rule. They need to feel that they have, in some way, investigated, understood, and ultimately chosen to align with it. Without that intellectual and emotional buy-in, every directive, every memo, Every "because I said so" is a tiny death of the spirit. But here's the profound paradox that most people, especially those in authority, completely miss. This resistance is not about a lack of discipline. In fact, the very people who bristle most at external control often possess immense, almost formidable internal discipline. They can push themselves harder, longer, and with more focus than any external boss ever could. Why? Because the drive is coming from within. It's authentic, it's theirs. The same person who will visibly deflate and drag their feet for a week on an assigned corporate report might work through the night with relentless passion on a personal project, a creative endeavor, or a cause they believe in. The difference isn't the capacity for effort, it's the source of the motivation. The difference is ownership.
If you peel back the layers, you'll often find that beneath this powerful resistance lies a personal history. Perhaps they grew up with controlling or overbearing parents where every choice, from what they wore to who their friends were to what they did with their free time, was micromanaged, criticized, or overridden. In that environment, their autonomy was the one sacred thing they could never surrender, the inner fortress they built to protect their true self from being colonized. Or perhaps they had their trust broken by authority figures one too many times. A teacher who was unfair, a boss who took credit, a leader who was hypocritical. Now they see a command not as neutral guidance, but as a potential precursor to manipulation or exploitation. Their defiance, then, is not childishness. It's a defense mechanism honed by experience. It's the hard-won wisdom of someone who has learned, sometimes painfully, that surrendering your will to others can be a dangerous game. This deep-seated need for self-direction can make ordinary relationships and workplaces a delicate, intricate dance. They are not, in their hearts, trying to be difficult. They are trying to breathe. They are trying to remain intact. This is why the simplest shift in language can change the entire dynamic. The statement, "You need to finish this report by 5, triggers the wall. It activates the reactants. But the question, what would it take for us to get this report across the finish line by 5, opens a door. It's the difference between being treated as a subordinate and being engaged as a collaborator. It's the difference between a command and an invitation to problem solve. It's also this very trait that often gives them such a powerful and uncompromising sense of justice. They are acutely, sometimes painfully, attuned to power imbalances and unfairness because they feel the sting of diminished autonomy so sharply in their own lives. They are often the ones who will question the pointless, archaic company policy, who will stand up for the co-worker being unfairly micromanaged, who will champion the underdog and challenge the status quo. Their resistance, therefore, isn't just a personal quirk. It can be a moral stand for the principle of self-determination for everyone. Yet, like any profound strength, this one casts a long shadow. There are times when this hyper-vigilant autonomy reflex can inadvertently cut them off from help, from guidance, from valuable learning. When every friendly suggestion feels like a command, and every expert's well-intentioned advice feels like a threat to their own competence, personal and professional growth can become a solitary and unnecessarily arduous path. The very mechanism that protects their freedom can sometimes wall them off from the collaborative support, the mentorship, and the shared wisdom that makes the journey through life richer and less lonely. It can be a prison of one's own making, where the bars are forged from the very desire to be free. If you are one of these people, you have likely carried a lifelong weight of misunderstanding. You've been called contrary, stubborn, a loose cannon, a problem employee, a difficult partner. You've felt the simmering frustration of managers, teachers, and even loved ones who just cannot comprehend why you can't simply go along with it. You may have even internalized this, wondering what is wrong with you. Please, hear this. Your resistance is not a flaw. It is the signature of a free spirit. It is the living evidence of a mind that cannot be easily dominated, a will that insists on its own existence and validity. It is the fire that has kept you from being swallowed whole by systems, expectations, and pressures that would erase you. The goal, then, is not to erase this essential part of you, but to learn its language, to integrate it, to develop the wisdom to discern between a genuine threat to your autonomy and a simple benign request for coordination, to learn to choose your battles wisely rather than feeling compelled to fight every war declared upon your will. The challenge is to harness that fierce internal drive, that incredible engine, and point it deliberately towards your own deepest goals and values, so that your freedom serves your purpose rather than just being a reaction against the world. Because the truth is, the world desperately needs people who can't be told what to think. It needs people who question, who challenge, who insist on finding their own way and seeing with their own eyes. The explorers, the innovators, the rebels, the visionaries. Look closely at their biographies and you will find this trait glowing at the core. They are the ones who see a sign that says, "Do not enter," and whose first instinctive thought is to wonder what beautiful, terrible, or revolutionary thing is on the other side. They are the ones who push humanity forward, who break the molds, precisely because they refuse to simply follow the well-trodden path. So the next time you feel that familiar, visceral surge of resistance, that heat in your chest, don't just judge it or suppress it. Listen to it. It is your inner compass recalibrating. It is your spirit's way of checking in, of asking the most fundamental question of all. Is this my choice? Am I still the author of my own life? That feeling isn't something to be ashamed of or something to be suppressed. It's something to be respected, understood, and ultimately mastered. It's the fire of a self that is truly, authentically its own. And in a world that is constantly, subtly, and often with good intentions, trying to shape us, conform us, and fit us into boxes, that fire is not a problem to be solved.